Testing. Yes, they project. All right, go for it.
Good evening, everyone. This is the open space meeting for November 2025. The date is November 12th. We are a week late because of changes we had to make. It is now 5:45 p.m. And before we do introductions, I'm going to ask everyone to rise for the Pledge of Allegiance, please. Pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you all very much. So very first thing is the committee introductions. We'll start with myself, Jonathan Gale. I am the chair of the Open Space Committee. Danica?
I'm Danica Belknap, clerk.
Leonard Hall, member.
we have 2 open slots on the committee. Do you want to, our next item is,
Well, we have the next meeting date is first.
so we usually meet, and I'm saying this for our prospective member, as I said, we usually meet on the first Wednesday of the month. However, we've decided to make a change, permanent change, which will be on the second Wednesday of the month then. I'm probably going to ask for a motion on that, just so it's formalized.
So the December only, it doesn't work for me. In general, I can do the second Wednesday, but I have another meeting that is not at its normal time.
Well, the second Wednesday
On
of
December 12th.
of December is the 12th, and I will be out west, so it doesn't work for me either.
Okay,
Unless
December 10th.
December,
Yeah.
is it December 10th? I'll
Yeah,
still be out
December
west.
10th
I'll
is
be
the
out from the
second
7th through the
Wednesday.
16th. So the choice is we could still try to meet the first week in December,
Mhm.
or we can meet after the 17th or after the 16th when I return. Or if there's anything, unless something, I mean, there are a couple things we'll get to in a few minutes that I think it might be worth meeting on the first week in December. And we'll discuss that when we get to
Okay.
some other business, but I think it's important to meet.
I have a suggestion. Next meeting, first Wednesday, is also the Board of Selectmen meeting. And if Mr. Cabbage is approved this evening, we would probably need to attend that meeting because that would be the appointment meeting.
Well, it would be unless there's one in the meantime.
Well, there is a meeting next week.
So, yeah,
Okay,
so that's why I'm saying,
okay,
yeah,
all right,
and we could get that in right away.
okay.
So that's why I'm thinking, I'm thinking that if we can meet for the first week in December, because we may want to look, for example, if we want to look at the bylaw change again, or anything, or go over or review it, or talk about it being presented to the Board of Selectmen before the end of the year, so we can make sure it gets on an agenda and we can help present it potentially. Then we would want to meet the first week in December and then separately join in the Board of Selectmen's meeting at the next meeting
Right,
after that. So having said that, the first Wednesday in December is the Selectmen's meeting at 6 o'clock.
In this room? No,
No, they
in
meet,
Old
no,
Town
no,
Hall. right?
at Old Town Hall.
Okay.
And unless either of you need to be at the Selectmen's meeting,
no, I don't.
Mr. Cabbage, if we voted you onto the committee, would you be available to go to the Selectmen's meeting next week so that they can do a meet and greet, and
And
that would be,
They are the final
right, they
appointees.
technically have the final,
that's a Wednesday night.
right, that's next Wednesday at 6 PM. But depending upon where you are on the agenda, you could be at 6:05 or you might be at 7:35.
That's fine.
And we would let you know where you are on the agenda.
And just so you know, one, our recommendation does not guarantee
Okay,
that they will vote for
sure.
anybody. We've had that happen and it gets a little embarrassing.
Anyway, if you can be available next week, assuming that we all,
Yeah,
or 2 out of 3 of us agree, that's all that matters.
and they will not appoint anyone if they're not present, so.
So, which I think I did shared with you when we spoke on the phone.
Is it likely I'd be questioned in any way, or is it just?
I mean,
Your name?
let's wait until we interview it, and then we can share that with you.
Sure.
Okay, so I'm gonna suggest if none of the 3 of us have to be at that meeting, that we do meet on that first Wednesday. You are available for that one?
The third works for me, yeah.
Okay, and then starting January, we'll go to the second Wednesday, and I will confirm that with Leanne tomorrow, just to make sure that we're all in agreement for a space and place,
Okay.
because we still
So,
have to make sure this room is gonna be available.
yeah. All right, so tentatively, we'll plan for a next meeting, first Wednesday, December 3rd, 5:45 in this room.
Correct.
And you're gonna confirm with
I'm gonna
Leanne it's
confirm with her
available.
tomorrow, and then going forward, starting in January, will be the second Wednesday of the month, this room at 5:45.
Okay,
We're still once in a while gonna have conflicts with What am I thinking, Board of Selectmen or a few other things, but there should be far fewer.
Okay.
So hopefully that will work. Can I get a motion to, after next month, change our meeting date to the second Wednesday of the month?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none. We'll call for a vote. Danica,
I,
Leonard,
Aye.
and Jonathan is an aye. Mr. Digits, just so you'll know, if you are here in the future, when we do the votes, the chair will call each person to vote, however you vote, up or down, yea or nay. If any of us are not able to join and we're on Zoom, I'm just saying this now so I don't forget it later, then we have to do a roll call. Every committee in town is under the same procedure. So if you couldn't make it physically here, but you're on Zoom, then we would all just do a formal roll call, as opposed to just saying aye, which means you say your name, Jonathan Gale, aye, Leonard Hull, aye, like that. And that's the only difference. Our next item is,
your chairman's address.
Chairman's report is, there's not too much to report. Again, I was happy with the two events that we recently had in October, and the questions that people asked and brought to the table and so forth, and I think that was important. I hope that people watched the two events on YouTube and got some more information from the town. Other than that, I don't have anything spectacular to report right now. We didn't have anything that came up at special town meeting directly that affects us. And I thought the town meeting went well. It took less than an hour to go through all 19 items, which was great. I have some thoughts we'll get to in another meeting for the next town meeting where we might want to have something on there, but I'll get to that, as I said, down the road a little bit, not tonight. But I really don't have anything specific, and I'm trying to move it along tonight too, because we need,
Yeah.
our
Okay.
time is a little tighter.
Sounds good to me. Public input.
Public input, again, I'm going to just reference
one
to
on Zoom?
Mr. Digits. If anybody is on, if somebody's physically here from the public, this is an opportunity for them to ask, share, tell, talk, whatever. And the same thing with YouTube. Sometimes we have people on YouTube who are watching because we're doing a specific, we might be working on specific items and they have an interest in it, or they just want to talk. So this is an opportunity for people on YouTube to chime in and ask questions. Or I should say on Zoom. And right now we have no one available, so nobody wants to talk to us, which is okay. Every now and then it's good. Next is,
So next is old business, but I'm wondering if rather than keeping Mr. Cabbage
Yeah, I
here
think-
waiting, we could move to,
if one of you wants to make a motion to,
I'll make a motion to go out of order and take item number 8, new business next.
I'll second.
any discussion? Hearing none. Leonard,
Aye.
Danica,
Aye.
Jonathan, aye.
Okay.
So we are we'll interview you now, and by the way, that doesn't mean when we are done, you have to leave.
Okay.
If you want to stay, stay, just as an FYI for you. But we're doing it so that you don't have to stay here if you don't want to. So we have your application, your resume. I wasn't able to print out. It didn't, for whatever reason, through the town. It didn't print out the way we wanted it to. But we all have your application. So I think what I'm going to do is, I don't know how many questions I have or Leonard had or Danica has. It says not a heavy duty kind of interview overall. I have a couple questions. I'll ask a couple if I could. And then Leonard or Danica, if they have questions for you, if that's okay.
Mhm.
Okay. So, the first question is the obvious question. You put in an application to be a member of Open Space. So my first question is twofold. What's your perception of what do you understand Open Space to do? And the second part of that is going to be knowing what you are going to tell us based on what you think we do, which might be true and might be 100% correct. What's the reason you want to be on Open Space? What are you hoping to do with us, for us, help us, support us? Maybe you see other challenges we're not seeing. So floor is yours.
Thank you, and thank you for the opportunity to be interviewed for the position. I will certainly confess, I don't think my understanding of the committee is full. There's probably more that you do that I'm unaware of, so I'm anxious to learn about what sorts of things are on your agendas. And, before you now, my expectation and understanding is that you manage and maintain a lot of of course, the open spaces in town, parks, trails, recreation areas, things of that nature, I believe. If that is the case, I'm certainly interested in becoming involved, particularly because I enjoy the outdoors. Moved to the town of Dayton just a little bit more than 4 years ago, probably 4.5 years ago now, I'd say. And I have my 3 sons. We very much enjoy the outdoors here. And I think Dayton really is superior to most towns, given the amount of open space that's here and the sort of, quiet, homey feel of the town, certainly compared to my native Randolph, where I come from. Very different world back there. And this is one that I very much enjoy and have embraced and want to become a part of. And really, with my background and interests in governance, I think this might be a nice fit for me. And I would love to have a role in both planning and maintaining and preserving the sorts of spaces that are under your control and under your advisement.
So let me just, and I think this is an important point to clarify based on what your answer is, and as you said, what you don't know yet. Open space is in an advisory capacity, in the sense that one of the dilemmas we have in Dayton, and I think all 3 of us can attest to feeling it, is that a lot of the committees and commissions that represent what all 4 of us would consider open space don't necessarily communicate the way we think they should. So that you have Parks and Rec, Kevin does a great job. It's hard to communicate with trails for Kevin or for us. It's hard to communicate with planning at times. It's hard to communicate with conservation at times, things like that, with stormwater at times. So part of what we're doing is coming up with different plans and different ideas to bring all the committees to the table together, so that every committee has a representative or 2, so that we really can work on devising a future open space plans for Dayton that meets exactly what you're talking about. We've bantered this around. We've spoken to different committee chairs, sometimes on the record, sometimes off the record. But the point is, we're trying to make it happen to do exactly what you're saying right now. Part of what we look at in open space is not just the open space that's here now, but how to preserve it. I think I mentioned to you in our phone call that we were beginning to look at how to develop land trusts and what's involved in that and how we go about, because that's a huge process, but that's one way of preserving land. We talked about what future development in town and how open space would be used and how that would work with regard to conservation and potentially development for business or development for housing, things like that, and maintaining open space, knowing that there are certain things the town has to maintain, but we also want to make sure we can keep a good footprint of open space in town and have mixed use. Look, if you have a development that wants to come in town and it looks like it can happen, how can we in open space, work with the developer and work with the other committees in town to ensure that that space becomes mixed use, and not just for housing, for example, or not just for business, but becomes, maybe there's trails that can be put through there, or parks, or it can be connected to parks or trails or things like that. So we're looking at, we look at all of it in that respect. Just to give you an idea, I just wanted to give you an idea for that, of where we're at for that. What do you see? My second question to that though too, if you could talk a little bit about your background and how you feel your background might fit into what we're doing from what you've heard from me, or whatever you feel it might fit in on our committee.
Yeah, certainly. One of the things that occurred to me, and considering the position and the curiosity of what really does happen at the meetings and what the authority is and how far it goes. You mentioned it's advisory, that's enlightening for sure in that But it occurred to me that if I'm unaware of a lot of what the committee does, then I'm certainly probably not alone. And my first thought about what I might contribute in terms of, if I were, might be something to increase engagement in the town. Let other people know about it, let other people know when it's meeting, what's being addressed and how it might affect them. So outreach in that capacity. I think it's interesting that you said you're planning that same sort of thing, but with sort of the intra-governmental bodies within town. I could see that absolutely being critical. But I'd like to maybe take it a step further and go outside of the other committees and boards and so forth to just the average citizen.
And I'm going to say, I think that's really important. I'll give you an example of something exactly what you're talking about, and then I'm going to ask Danica if she has anything to add, questions for now too. One of the things that we've worked on or tried to work on for a while is a townwide cleanup. And, there's areas of the parks, there are some trails. Of course, you live down by the water. There are some areas along the water that we feel could really use some cleaning up, things like that, even along 138. It's different places and some of the other side streets areas that lead to, open space areas, things like that. We've attempted several times to organize townwide cleanups, and we've tried to bring in Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, Cub Scouts, other groups. We've worked with parks to try and do it. We've worked with other committees to try and do it. So we put it out there as the conduit of information, if you will. We had a couple of different times, we've had a couple of different dates, and this is where it gets, unfortunately, you may have better ideas or better ways of doing this potentially, but we've not only reached out to committees, but all the other organizations that I've just told you about and others, and we get no takers. People want to tell us, you need to clean this, or I hate driving by that, it looks this or it looks that, but then when we put it out there, for 6 weeks later, we're looking for volunteers, come to a volunteer meeting, we have volunteer meetings and nobody shows up. So draw a conclusion of that what you want, but I'm just saying we could definitely use help in trying to get the word out and encouraging different groups to get involved. I don't care if it's Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, Democrats, Republicans, as long as people come out and help. That's all we care about. That's what we're looking for, to help beautify the whole community for all of us. So that's just my thought. I just want to share that because that goes along with that.
Do you mind if I ask a follow-up to that?
Sure.
Like I said, I've been here about 4.5 years now. Can I ask how many times those efforts were made in that period of time that I was here?
In the past year, well, first of all, not all of us were on this committee 4 years ago. And I don't know how many times they've done it before. I can tell you in the last year plus, we've done it, 3 times? We've set 3 different dates.
Well,
But-
there's 1 or 2. We only really had one date that we advertised. We
That's
had to
firm.
postpone it. Yeah, there was one date that we advertised and nobody showed up. And then it rained the day of too, so
So,
there isn't that.
but we didn't have takers ahead of time. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
know,
you're right. There were
that's
there were
the-
multiple times before that you reached out,
You
but that
know.
was more to like committees and stuff.
Yeah, I mean,
didn't
I've even
participate.
put out townwide emails to every single committee member of everywhere in town
Yeah.
that says, you have a stake in this. Can you, find a few good people, if you will? So, it's difficult. We understand people have different schedules. Everybody's busy. You have children that may be involved in sports and things like that. And those things get in the way, and we all understand that. But we also know that in order for us to do part of what we feel we're charged with, we need community input and support. So, and that goes to other things too, like zoning bylaw changes, which we'll get into it another part of the conversation stuff, I think, too.
Over the last-
Danica, let me just see if Danica has any thoughts or questions right now.
So the only thing, so admittedly, I don't have your resume. I only have just the application was printed.
Yeah, that's my fault.
Yeah, don't worry about it. But I see your background is in public administration and you've worked with the state and federal, I think it said. And I was wondering if you could talk a little bit more about like what it is you do and.
Sure, yeah, absolutely. I've honestly been through a number of career changes, so I won't in any way claim that I'm doing that sort of work now. My graduate degree is in public administration. I graduated in 1990, I believe it was, getting foggy now, from Virginia Tech, their Center for Public Administration and Policy. And from there, I went to work for, not nearly long enough, honestly, the Volpe Center up in Cambridge, which is a US DOT agency. But I was really interestingly positioned there in the strategic planning office. And so I was involved in a lot of policy research, writing policy papers. It was really a fascinating and very enlightening and educational experience for me. Later, I ended up in state, working for the state at the Mass Biologics facility up in Mattapan, which is oddly enough a pharmaceutical company that's owned by the state that falls under UMass Medical School. So kind of an interesting place in itself right there. Exposed to quite a lot again, but in that capacity, it was in more of a technical sort of role. So, most recently, I've been involved in technical training, working in IT, and currently working for Cambridge Savings Bank as their technical trainer, producing a lot of videos and material for things of that nature. But in terms of, I think how it really how those experiences relate to the work here, I'd say it probably comes down to the foundations of public administration as they are. When somebody pursues an MBA, for instance, you're really getting down to the bottom line. You're talking about dollars and cents, what is our profit on any given activity? And in public administration, it's very different. It's not the bottom line. It's not dollars and cents always. It really comes down to a series of E's, sort of alliteration that they use: economy, efficiency, effectiveness, equity, and more recently things like engagement and empathy. And those are all great terms, but I kind of keep them at the forefront of my thinking, my thought process whenever I'm dealing with any sort of situation that I'm kind of being asked to kind of adjudicate or consider or discern. If there's something in my family, something at the office, if I was on this committee, I keep those different pillars in the forefront of my mind. Is what we are doing effective? Is it the right thing to do? Is it something that is being done well? You can do something well and it's the wrong thing. You can do something well and it's unfair to people. You can do something well and it's completely overblown in its budget and in fiscal sense. So I think I can probably offer a mindset that is deliberate and thoughtful in terms of coming to any decision. One of the things that's always important for me, whether it's as a person who, just a professional or even as a dad, is consistency. What have I decided in the past? How do those decisions affect the future? Is what I'm deciding now consistent with those previous decisions? So always trying to look at things like fairness, equity, and how it impacts people. I mentioned engagement a little while ago. If we're making great decisions, but we're kind of doing it in a vacuum without anyone being online to notice or care or maybe have a stake in it, it might not be the most advantageous way to do it. So it would be great to increase that awareness with people, get them involved, and at least let them know what's happening in their town. And that's kind of one of the reasons why I'm here. I'd like to know what's going on.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
No, just thank you for volunteering your time and wanting to get involved. We appreciate it.
Leonard?
I have several. To answer your question earlier about cleanup days, 4 years ago, there were multiple groups in the town that worked together, and they put together a very impressive cleanup. Second year, there was less of a turnout. Last year, there really wasn't one. And I'm not sure why the interest has dropped, but we've tried 3 times
Yeah.
and we haven't been successful.
One of the reasons I asked is because, as I said, I'm originally from Randolph, and yet I've been well aware of several days that they've planned in the last couple of
Earth
years.
Day. Usually they would try to go and have it on Earth Day.
That
Maybe
the
we
case,
need to
yeah.
go back to that direction.
But I know, I've been aware of cleanup days in the town of Randolph, and I actually still own property up there, but it's just a rental situation. So I have an interest in it, but I'm surprised I haven't heard of any of the ones planned here in Dayton, where I'm actually living, so I'd love to be able to add to that effort to get people out to do it.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry? No, I do have some.
Yeah, go ahead.
One of the things that we've talked about in regards to open space, several of our meetings, is passive recreation. And the 2 areas I'd like to hear your opinion, your thoughts on, is the use of open space land set aside for hunting, and also open space land set aside for a dog park. Taunton just opened a dog park. Braintree, I believe, has one. Lincoln, Rhode Island has an awesome one that I've been to.
Yeah, Canton has one, Sharon has one, a lot of towns have.
Randolph
Right,
opened
so
one.
Yeah.
I'm wondering what your opinion is of the dog park and setting aside land for hunting.
Let me start with the dog park. I'm a dog owner. I've got 2 dogs myself. I'm fortunate to have a nice little piece of land where they're able to run around and be contained and get their exercise. But I can certainly say that during my time in Randolph, they opened one to quite a lot of fanfare, and it was a big hit. People were very excited about it, and they seem to remain to be so even a decade after that. It was something that frequently came up in conversations about the town.
Was it private or was it run by the town?
It was run by the town. It was actually right next to a really nice paved bike path that I grew up riding on as a kid.
One of the objections some residents have voiced is liability. I was wondering how Randolph got around that.
That I don't know. I can't say I was involved in any of the decision-making or operations of it. Honestly, the first thought I had in terms of the difficulty with them or a challenge would be keeping it clean, maintaining the grounds and keeping things picked up and all, if people aren't gonna do it themselves. I'd certainly be interested in researching that, getting answers to it, and the liability, but I don't know offhand how that plays
Thank you.
out.
I think the second part of his question was also about hunting.
Yes, I'm not a hunter, never hunted. I don't have anything against it, no great interest in doing it, but certainly no problems with it. What I do understand, and I think this directly kind of goes back to my experiences with the Volpe Center, is the need for sustainability. One of the bigger projects that I worked on, oddly enough, was research into what was considered to be sustainable transportation, policies that would help sustain transportation in terms of its economics and its impact upon the environment, things like that. And the real paragon example that I found was in forestry, where we've got far more forest acres than we ever had, going back to before the Pilgrims, and probably even well before that. And it's an industry where they maintain their own resources. They're constantly growing more than they actually harvest. So over time, it's been just a fantastic industry, profitable and again, sustainable. And I can kind of relate some of those lessons, I think, to hunting, because just even as an average person driving around Dayton, in the last week or so, I've come close 3 times, actually, to deer on the road. Not to actually having an accident, but where they were right there, and if they made the wrong move, they'd be coming at me and crossing paths with me in a very negative sort of way. So I think hunting has a place in sustaining and keeping levels, populations where they ought to be. I think we're seeing, if my anecdotes mean anything, really, it seems like an awful lot of deer coming out of the woods and being on the roads. Hunting may certainly help that. I've always heard that it keeps the populations of animals, not just under control, but healthy. And the hunters that I've known, I have a few friends that are avid hunters, they're probably the most dedicated to, things like climate and the ecology and the environment than anyone else I know. So they're not just out there murdering Bambi and things like that. They're really trying to do a useful thing and feed their families in doing it. So if it can be done safely, if it can be done, with all those different ease, then I'd certainly likely be in favor of it.
Other question or two?
Oh, yes, I do. I don't know how familiar you are with the discussion in regards to conservation subdivision bylaw, which the town of Dayton is hoping to put forth a recommendation by December 31st. With that being said, in a conservation subdivision, usually land is set aside for open space as part of conservation land.
Sure.
One of the questions came up, should wetlands be considered part of open space, or should open space be in addition to the wetlands?
Separate from.
Yeah, that's a great question, actually. I certainly don't have enough information, I don't think, to make an opinion on it at this time. But I mean, it clearly seems by definition, wetlands are there to just sit and not really be touched.
Right.
If this was some sort of a deal, maybe I'm reading into this incorrectly, but if this is some sort of a deal between the town and the developers or the current landowners, I don't think there's much benefit to just simply wetlands being, granted to the town to manage or maintain or preserve.
I think what it comes to, I'm gonna try to answer that for you before you go any further a little bit. A little bit of that comes to, and when we look at it, and Danica has been very involved actually through her organization as a planner, and putting her team has helped put a lot of this together separately through Serpent. We look at, if you had, I'll give you an example, if we have 200 acres. And
who owns the 200 acres?
well, let's just, right now, let's say we don't know. It could be town, it could be private, and we eventually want it to be part of a trust. It could be a developer who wants to build on it. Combination of many, many factors. So let's just assume for a minute, there's 200 acres. Out of the 200 acres, 75 acres are wetland.
Okay.
So those 75 acres as wetland are probably, not buildable, not useful for other purposes, they're wetland, which leaves you potentially 125 acres. And then from there, how do we couch that 125 acres, depending upon location, depending upon who owns it or what they want to do with it? What percentage of it do we want allowed to be buildable, or what type of buildable? 20 acres, 30 acres, 50%, 30%. So we look at all of that to figure out, and there's never a one size fits all, obviously. But there has to be parameters that the town has to determine what percentage of land is considered, when you have wetland, is it considered part of it, is it not? And then from the rest of it, what's considered open space, what's considered buildable, things like that. So those are things that we've been working on recently.
So looking to create some sort of a policy or formula.
Well, the formula and the policy, exactly, and the formula and policy will be created by a bylaw change, a zoning bylaw change, which will go to the town meeting in June. So for the most part, it's been done and it's been written and rewritten. And Danica could address this much better than I could because, the teams at Serpent are putting together the final touches, I think, right now, and the final recommendations, which will come back to the town, which we'll look at too, and then take to the Board of Selectmen for review, because it has to be done by the end of this year, which is only 6 weeks away. So I think, I'm assuming you're just trying to get a sense of what the thought process that,
Yes, and my last question would kind of follow up with that. So I'm going in a direction with this to learn how you feel about not just open space, but how open space fits into how you see Dayton. Now, earlier in your discussion, you mentioned about some of the things that attracted you to Dayton.
Yeah.
Open space and development strategically can work together, or they can used to slow down development. How do you see open space and its role regarding development in the town of Dayton?
that's not an easy one to answer.
Well, I'm sorry, say,
He said it's not an easy
oh,
one to
no,
answer.
no, it's not. I
Because
pause for a second.
it depends
Yeah.
upon the direction you'd like to see Dayton.
Well, I guess to give a brief answer, because I don't have a good procedural answer offhand. I'd have to really understand the facts better. But in a short answer that I can give, off the cuff, I look at open spaces as a limited resource. It's a resource that needs to be used currently, in the present, to benefit the town as needed. And that benefit might be just, creating oxygen from trees. Or it might be a more driving benefit to house people who really want to live here. That has to be worked out. But I also see it as a limited resource that needs to be preserved for the future. Is this the right development? Maybe it's not. Maybe we need a bigger, better development 25 years from now or something like that. So it's not a simple, no, I don't want to see things built, or yes, pave it all. It's neither is the way to go. It's what is the right decision and when is the right time for that decision?
Thank you.
I personally don't have any more questions at this point. I think just to tell you, we can each take 1 minute if you want and just tell you who we are a little bit too, because I think that's important for you to know who we are a little bit, or 30 seconds of our background, whatever.
Sure.
So as I said, I'm the current chair of Open Space. My background is for the most part, is in disability policy and law. Has nothing to do with open space directly, with the exception that for the last 30 years, I lead hikes and climbs for people who have visual or other types of disabilities all over New England and now out west as well. And I help design trails in different places for people with different types of disabilities, part of the work that I do, that my team does at times. I got involved in open space to begin with because I felt that there's a need to balance open space with development in our town. And knowing that a lot of folks necessarily don't have an appetite for big development footprint any longer, even though there are some that are on the books and will still be developed, but going forward in the future, it's important for me to want to work with Parks and Rec and to want to work with the other committees that I mentioned earlier to figure out how we can preserve the space that we have, knowing that we ultimately have to grow for our tax base, whether it's industry, whether it's development, and how we do that so that we can really maintain as much as possible the open space in town. So that's me in terms of who I am. Danica?
Sure. So I am, in my like professional background, I'm an environmental planner. I currently work for SERPED, which is the regional planning agency that serves Dayton and 26 other communities in southeastern Mass. So I'm already, there's a lot of overlap. I guess, so I'm already very involved in, not like Dayton specifically, but just in municipal work in the region. And I've seen, and I moved here a little over 2 years ago. No,
Yeah, a little like 2.5, maybe.
yeah, almost
Yeah.
3 years ago, actually. This winter it'll be 3 years. But when I moved here, I like having worked in the municipal realm and seeing like the need for local volunteers to help with these types of committees and stuff. I really wanted to get involved, and there was an opening on open space. And it just seemed like a natural fit for me, given my background. And I'm also like, again, like very avid outdoors person. I love going for walks in parks in Dayton and elsewhere in the region. So that's why I decided to get involved in this committee and help with my background in like land use planning, environmental protection, land prioritization. That's kind of like where my background fits into helping this committee.
Leonard?
I can be quite honest from a political perspective. Dayton is at a crossroads. I want Dayton as much as possible to control its own destiny. And that's getting harder. We dodged a bullet by staying out of the MBTA impact zone. Although by us not being mandated to be in it, we avoided mandates. We have not avoided the influence of the MBTA. And there is a huge ripple effect that's coming out of Fall River. As a result of that, Dayton needs to be cautious about what is going to happen to the town. Right now, the only stumbling block that developers have is the water situation in South Dayton. That situation could change if developers become comfortable putting in wells. We could have a housing explosion. One way to control growth is through open space. The sooner we can buy up land, and that's why the trust is so important. That gives us more control of our destiny. The other piece politically, Dayton has not met their affordable housing. So it's really important that Dayton work, negotiate with developers. And I kind of like the conservation subdivision bylaw because it incorporates and can incorporate some affordable housing, but it does definitely incorporate open space. Again, it can be done through negotiations that you are working towards your affordable housing, but most importantly, you're helping to preserve the integrity of the town. That's why I want to be in open space to work. The trust is huge. I want to spend a lot of time getting that off the ground. But secondly, advocating for the town. And I'm getting a feel that most people that are in the town right now, they don't want Dayton to become Randolph or Easton. They like the open space. And to make that happen, not just talk about it, but to plan it out, to influence the voters. And that's huge, to get the voters to come to meetings. It's like pulling teeth in this town.
Yeah.
They had right before the last town meeting, they had an open meeting to discuss the bylaws. that were being presented, not the bylaws, but the articles that were going to be presented. One person.
Oh.
So that's what I see our role. And you talked about it earlier and your ideas with tech. If we can incorporate that to reach out to the people, if we can't get them to come to us, maybe we can, through various means, reach out to them and say, look, this is important. What do you want to see? What do you want us to do? We got meetings coming up. Please attend because your vote determines our future.
We did, by the way, post that even on that Lions Club billboard out front here for our cleanups. And still, same thing happened. So, you know, people had to see it driving by. But do you have other questions for us? Things we can, anything you want to ask us?
I don't think so. I mean, I'm just in general interested in, you know, some of the things that are before you. It sounded like, you know, based on some of the business you talked about, old, new, so forth from the minutes. Doesn't seem like there's a great deal, but certainly interested in what is there.
I think you know, the biggest things that are before us overall, if we put the cleanup aside for a minute, are the bylaw changes that we've reviewed, looking into land trust at this point and how we can encourage that. And we're just beginning to get our feet wet with that. Looking at other things that we can do with regard to open space and then bringing all the committees together. Those are really the tasks in front of us over the next few months. So, any last question that either of you have or any thoughts before we close the interview?
Not from me.
Leonard?
Well, I'd like to make a recommendation. If you would accept it this time.
Sure, go ahead, make a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that the name of Glenn Cabbage be forward for admission as a member of the Open Space Committee.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion, anything else anybody wants to add before we go? Hearing none, Danica,
Aye.
Leonard,
Aye.
Jonathan is an aye. So I think that answers your question on what we think. What I will do is send an email tomorrow morning, and thank you for coming, by the way, and for interviewing. I know our questions were maybe a little bit long at times, including me, pedantic, especially me, maybe. But what I will do is send an email to Leanne tomorrow and ask her to include you on the agenda for the next Board of Selectmen's meeting. As if there's a problem, either way, I'll let you know. If there's no problem, I'll let you know. And if there is a problem because of their scheduling, I'll let you know. Otherwise, the next one would be next Wednesday, 6 o'clock. Usually one of us is there also. I will, as the chair, try to be there. If it's not me, it would probably be one of my cohorts in crime. But I will try to be there in case Board of Selectmen has any questions of us at all. They might pretty much say, we know you, we don't know you, tell us about yourself. They're not going to ask you as much as we're asking you. I can tell you that right now. It's going to be much, much, much shorter. And, you know, thank you, et cetera, et cetera. And then assuming they say yes to everything, then what I will do is put you on our email for the four of us that would be now going back and forth. I will send you copies of other documents we have that we're working on or that we have so that we're reviewing, so that you have those things for our, you know, our next full meeting that you'd be involved in too. So I'll send you a bunch of different things so that you have to look at. And that'll kind of give you a sense of where we're at with some of our stuff. It's not going to cover everything, but I'll send you some of the things that we're involved in and what we're doing.
Thank you. Look forward to seeing you.
That's it. And if you want to hang out, it's up to you. If you don't, you know, if don't feel like you have to.
Yeah.
I don't even know what time it is right now, so.
It's not late, but
It's 6:35.
Okay, we've only got about
We
10
have
more
10
minutes because we
minutes.
have to adjourn
Yeah.
a little earlier tonight.
I'll
So
certainly stay for 10.
So we're going to fly through a few things right now really quickly. So let's, a motion to go back to old business.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none. Leonard,
Aye.
Danica,
Aye.
Jonathan, aye. Okay, let's continue to where we were. We'll,
Okay, so open space plan extension and final approval.
so I have reached out. Have you heard from anyone at all? Has anyone reached out to you
No
besides
one has
Ralph?
reached out to us, but like I said last time, so Ralph did send an email to all of like the various people in town.
Yep.
Copying me. And did he copy? There's another person on my team who's working on the edits
Yeah,
now.
and I
Nobody
forward,
responded, but we haven't tried to reach out,
Okay,
because, right,
I did forward
Yeah.
that before I went on vacation
yeah.
to every single committee again, and everyone on the list, and asked them to reach back to you. So let me do that tonight again.
Yeah, I mean,
And
well,
it's-
but like I said last time, like, we haven't reached out for anything yet, because right now, like, the person on my team, Lauren, who's working on it, has just been, a lot of the data is publicly available data that she's just pulling and putting in what she can. So
Okay.
we're gonna come to you when it comes to like local knowledge that we can't find.
all right.
And she hasn't done that yet, but I'm sure she will soon.
So just to tell you in 30 seconds what this is. The town of Dayton, about 5 years ago or so, redesigned an open space plan for the town, not to be confused with the bylaw change we were just talking about. But had an open space plan that was for the most part approved. It went to the Board of Selectmen, and the Board of Selectmen did not give its final approval to it at that point. And because they didn't give it final approval, it couldn't be fully filed. So, and it had to be filed, and then it was held in abeyance, we found out recently. And the deadline to have it done and completely filed was supposed to be, what, a year ago, something like that. I don't have the dates in front of me. And it was going to expire in 2027. But now, and having a plan also allows us potentially through open space to look for a lot of other grants, i.e. what we were talking about a few minutes ago, things we've been talking about tonight, to look for other grants on things we would like to do with open space as well. So the state extended the plan for 3 years, not just for Dayton, but statewide. But in order to have the extension to 2030, you have to have a plan submitted and finalized by December 31st of this year. So with, somewhat with us, but mostly with Serpent, they've been working to revise the plan, add the things that have to be added in, check off the boxes that have to be checked off, so that we have that plan and we can review it, and then we can get it to the Board of Selectmen to sign off on, so that we can get it to the state by December 31st. So, at our next meeting, you will hear us hopefully reviewing the final plan, which is probably going to take up the meeting, so that we can get it to the Board of Selectmen at their final meeting before the end of the year.
So why do you say there's an end of the year deadline for submitting it to the state?
Isn't because that's what that email said.
Which email?
The email from Lauren, is it?
So, yeah, I mean, Serped has funding right now that expires at the end of the year that we can use to work on this. But when that expires, like you're not, you don't, it doesn't have to be submitted to the state by then.
I swear,
It's just
I
when-
really thought the email that I have says it has to be submitted by the end of the
I
year.
don't think so. I'll have to go back and reread stuff, but I don't think that's the case.
Let's both look.
Yeah.
My people will talk
confirm
to your people. But either way, it's a plan that has to be submitted, whether it's the end of the year or we have a little more time or not. There are a few things that we need from different people in town, some historical things and so forth, a few ADA things, which is my part to do now that I'm back. You know, it's mostly data collection at this point and historical collection that has to be added to it. And then hopefully, again, we'll have, if most of that, if not all of it, at least at our next meeting to review and discuss. And that'll take up probably the major portion of our meeting next time. And then, you know, as I said, the other thing will be the zoning bylaw. So those are two big things.
Yeah. So I learned having it's kind of happened by chance. I was talking to someone who was working, Bill Napolitano, who used to
Yep.
work at Serped, who
Yep.
was working on Dayton's plan at the
Yep.
time, which this was before I started working at Serped. I wasn't
Yep.
involved in it. But he said that the previous draft of the plan was there's like a section that's the land inventory that goes through all of the open spaces in the town.
Yep.
thinks that it was not updated then, so there's a chance that it might be out of date.
And we have a lot of that information now
Yeah,
because we got that
Assessors.
from the assessor's office.
yeah.
So we have that list of open space. If you don't have that, I can forward it
Well,
to you.
that's, isn't that like large properties?
Yes.
I think that list, it's like 5-acre properties or something.
Yeah,
It's-
are they looking
yeah.
for everything?
Well, it includes like municipally owned lands. They might not all be greater than 5 acres. It's any, I mean, what the state identifies as open space is like undeveloped natural lands or lands that are used for recreational purposes. So it could be like town-owned parks and trails. Like the state-owned, like not Titan Rock, the Sweets Knoll is the state-owned,
Yeah,
like that's an
yeah.
open space in the town.
Yeah.
It's municipally owned, state-owned, or like any type of privately owned recreational.
I'm
Or
gonna,
natural land.
what I'm gonna do, because I know some of the people on the list included the assessor and so forth as well, is let me send an email out again to everybody tomorrow and follow up with phone calls. And if we need to, I'll put together, I'll work with you to put together, because this is not related to our committee, so we're not crossing any boundaries. I'll try to put together either a setup meeting separately or a Zoom meeting so everybody can join at the same time. And we can probably get all the information we need if everybody's collectively in 1 hour.
Yeah, well, you
and
mean
put it together.
with the other committees?
Yes, yeah, I'm with the people. who
Not
are-
for all of us.
No, with the people who are named by Ralph in the email, because that covers those people who were named for all the questions that we have, including the one we're talking about now. So I'll follow that up tomorrow,
Okay.
for sure. Okay, and our next item, I know, I'm just trying to move, because I know you
Yeah.
have to.
The next item is the cleanup day subcommittee update.
Spoke to Kevin earlier today. Kevin Smith Jr. is, as you may or may not know, is Chair of Parks and Rec, who we tried to coordinate this with before. Kevin really would like to do a cleanup, and Kevin is also getting calls from residents at this point who are complaining about some of the things in a couple of the parks, or trash, or where the trash barrels are, or overflowing trash. Those affect cleanup, and some of that Kevin has no control over. It's where barrels have to be, and the private companies that are supposed to do the collection, or other departments that are supposed to do collection. Having said that, what Kevin and I talked about, because now we're getting into cold weather, potential snow on any day, things like that, is if we look now, and I'm assuming if you're part of our committee, you'll help take this on, because that seems to be something you're interested in too, is the day potentially next April, but we have to look at what day is the town election, so it doesn't conflict with the town election, which is usually on a Saturday. We have to look at when is Earth Day, when is Easter, things like that, so we don't conflict. But Kevin is suggesting that we do something right around Earth Day. So I don't know if we all want to look at a calendar tonight, or we want to look at calendar, come back at our next meeting in December and have a definite date to lock in. Like, we can lock it in the meantime with Kevin, and try to lock it in with other committees.
Yeah, maybe we can think about it between now and December
Okay,
and compare our calendars in December.
okay. Your thoughts,
I
Leonard?
don't know. I really would like to see something come together. But I would also like to see many different groups on board.
I agree.
The more groups that were involved, it's better for the whole town. In a lot of ways, unifying the town too.
Can I ask a question?
Sure. Yeah.
Have we ever attempted to reach out to churches?
Yes.
Mobilize them?
I did send, when we set up our last one, I sent an email and a follow-up phone call to all of the churches, or all the ministers, if you will, or church leaders in town that I could identify. And I think I hit every church. And I got 4 not available. I got 2 not right now. I got 1, we have our own things we're planning.
That's my church.
That's what I got.
Yeah.
So, I think we're all searching for ways to really reach out and get people. And I don't, look, Canton had to clean up this past week. You lived in Randolph, I lived in Canton before 9 years ago. Canton had over 120 volunteers with the cleanup. So what are we doing wrong? Now, I know they're a town that's 5 times the size, 4 times the size, but there's something we're missing here. And we all have to figure it out and make it work. So, yeah. Next.
Okay, next item is land trust development planning.
I don't even think we're gonna touch that tonight.
Yeah,
Because
no update.
We don't, no. All I'm gonna say is that I think because of what we're doing in December, we're not gonna get to it. But I think in January, taking some leads from our last meeting when we had gentlemen come and present some information, I think it makes sense to follow a little bit what he said. And let's reach out to a couple of the organizations that he mentioned and ask them to come and start to talk to us about how we plan and how we set it up.
Yeah,
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to table that item until the January meeting.
Is there a second?
second,
Any discussion? Hearing none. Leonard?
Aye.
Danica?
aye,
Jonathan? Aye. We will table it until January meeting, and hopefully in January we'll have some specifics to bring to the table. I'll do my best.
okay.
Next.
That was it. We didn't have the conservation subdivision bylaw on,
Nope.
but did you want to talk about that, maybe for
Yeah,
unanticipated new business?
I would. I guess the real question I have is from the things that we've discussed,
Mhm.
and then I'm going to put this back to you and ask you to take off your hat here for a minute.
Mhm.
But from the things that we've discussed, but more of that from feedback you've either gotten from other committees and towns in the town, and I know that that's been hard to get. And this isn't a separate example. I'm going to stop you again. You heard Danica talk about the bylaw change. This has gone, Serpent has tried to present this to every single committee and commission in town that would have any stake in the game. And Serpent, Danica's with her different hat, and with her team, which sometimes is 3 people, maybe 4, have gone to different committees to present the bylaw change. Talk about it, explain how it would work, and they're looking for feedback to make any other changes to really tweak it. Some of the committees didn't even make themselves available. And the committees that did, and her team have gotten very, very little feedback on a lot of these changes that affect everything related potentially to open space in many ways in the future. Not everything, but you know what I'm trying to say. They've gone and presented, they've gone, out of their way. And then we had a public meeting as well, or a meeting to inform the public. I don't want to call it a public meeting. And at that information meeting, we had what? 8 people, 9 people show up that were not directly related to a committee?
Well, less than that.
Less than that, probably really, it just seemed like it. But that's an example of, Serpent did their job to really, these things will, I can guarantee you when it's proposed at town meeting and it goes on the agenda as a warrant article, you're going to see a lot of people up in arms about it, one way or another. But they have plenty of opportunity to give input. So, and we
So-
promoted it every way we could.
Yeah. So what is it you hope to discuss in the December meeting? This is one of the things you said you wanted to
Right.
discuss.
What I'm hoping is that we'll have a final draft to look at.
Okay,
And if we have a final draft to look at that point, to discuss whether or not we want to work, we want to help present that to the Board of Selectmen,
okay.
because it's going to have to be presented before the end of the year, am I right? It has
Yeah,
to be done.
yeah.
So it would have to be on the agenda for one of their 2 December meetings.
Mhm.
So, we want to be able to give it our blessing, I'm going to put it that way,
Mhm.
and say, yes, we've reached out, we've worked with others, we've worked with the town administrator and held a public open session to discuss it, explain it, we've done everything we can do. Here's the final before you. And I don't want to do it, I'd like to be able to do it at the first meeting in December as opposed to the second, so that the Board of Selectmen doesn't have an opportunity to say, we're going to take it under advisement, but we can't make a decision, and then the year ends, and we don't have it.
Right.
Well, I don't think a decision necessarily has to be made. I mean, the end of the year deadline is really like when we are providing our
Your
drafted
expertise.
bylaw for the town to use.
Yeah.
And then it's kind of up to the town from there to decide how to move forward with it,
Well,
right?
basically, I think what we've seen is how the town hasn't moved forward
Yeah.
and hasn't been proactive other ways.
Mhm.
And I'd rather get it in front of the Board of Selectmen while Serpent is still actively involved,
Mhm.
so that it's just a matter of putting it on the warrant
Yeah,
and writing the warrant article.
okay. I'll talk to the staff working on that about getting a draft out ahead of this month essentially, so that we can get on this agenda for December 3rd and this, one of the selectmen's agenda
Yeah, I'm gonna-
in December.
I'm going to actually, theoretically, I'm going to try to have it put on both the Selectmen's agendas for the month, just
Okay.
in case there's questions, or they decide that they want to ask questions, they want to come back with something else. We can tell them it's already on your next agenda. Thank you,
Okay.
people. So,
Okay.
okay, that's it. And then we have,
Yeah, so we have to, well, any public input?
I don't see anyone.
nope, we have minutes.
Yep, the minutes from October 1st.
Yep. I'm going to make a motion to approve the minutes from October 1st. Do I have a second? I really
Second.
shouldn't make it, but I'm going to.
I will second.
Any discussion? Leonard?
Aye.
Danica?
Aye,
Jonathan is an aye. I did that for the purpose of expediting things, I guess. That's all.
yeah. And then adjourn, it's
Mr. Chairman, I make
6:53.
a motion to adjourn.
Is there a second?
Second,
Leonard?
Aye.
Danica?
aye.
Jonathan's an aye. There we go.
Thank you.
Log out.
Good night.
Stop recording.